Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Monday Night Raw review. Monday Night Raw tonight was from the American Airlines Center in Dallas, Texas. And this was the Raw after WrestleMania. WrestleMania this year, thought was very enjoyable. Night 1 was better than Night 2, in my opinion. WWE came off with a win for WrestleMania this year, and it was one of the best WrestleManias in a while. But I did have issues with WrestleMania, but overall it was a very enjoyable show. But I did a video earlier today. If you guys haven't seen it, I gave my thoughts on both nights of WrestleMania, so definitely check that out if you guys haven't seen it. But coming off of WrestleMania and going into Monday Night Raw tonight, WWE is back to being, as they always are. Monday Night Raw tonight, this was an absolutely terrible show, and this was the Raw after WrestleMania. When you think of the Raw after WrestleMania, you see the crowd getting hyped up, coming off of WrestleMania, they're cheering, they're applauding to their favorite superstars. We got nothing of that tonight. That crowd there in Dallas was absolutely dead. This didn't even feel like a Raw after WrestleMania. It just felt like a typical Monday Night Raw you see every Monday night. Show was awful. And if you think of the Raw after WrestleManias, the one that comes to mind is the Raw after WrestleMania 29, which was in Jersey. How throughout that whole night, that crowd was cheering the whole night. That was one of the best crowds after WrestleMania 29 for that Monday Night Raw. And that was the Raw where Dolph Ziggler ended up cashing the Money in the Bank and winning the title, the World Heavyweight Championship. So that's one of the many Monday Night Raws after WrestleMania I remember. The other one, of course, is the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania 33, where that Raw started off with Roman Reigns getting booed because he defeated The Undertaker in that main event of WrestleMania 33, which when I first watched that match during WrestleMania 33, I thought it was, okay. But then, as I thought about it, as the years went by and seeing it again, I'm like, man, that match sucked. That was a horrible main event. And yes, I'm talking about that match right there. And that happened at the end of the match where The Undertaker ended up, putting his hat and coat in the ring, in the middle of the ring, thinking that, he was going to retire, which, of course, he didn't. So, but that match right there, that was a moment there. But before that moment, that match was terrible as I look back on it now. But this Raw after WrestleMania was a complete bore. What do we get on the show tonight? We had Sasha Banks and Naomi versus Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley. A championship contenders match. Why are they still doing championship contenders matches? Please stop. They mean nothing. Every time they do a championship contenders match, it is just lazy fucking creative. And then we had The Miz versus Dominic Mysterio, which that was a quick match there. We had Bron Breakker versus Dolph Ziggler for the NXT Championship. Why is the NXT Championship being defended on Monday Night Raw? My guess is nobody watches NXT 2.0 and they got to have the match on Monday Night Raw to get viewers to tune into NXT on Tuesday nights. We had Austin Theory and the Usos versus RKBro and Finn Balor in a 6-man tag team match. We had a Texas Tornado match, the Street Profits versus the Alpha Academy. And we had Roman Reigns on the show tonight. And we had the return of Elias. New look for him. And wait until I tell you what they did with Elias here. When I get to that. You might as well just put his name on the next set of releases. Yeah, that was your Raw after WrestleMania for tonight. But let's jump right into the review. Monday Night Raw, the Raw after WrestleMania, opened up with the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes ended up coming out. He rose from the stage, came out to a big pop from the Dallas crowd. He was in a suit, and pyro ended up going off in the back for him. He ended up greeting one fan as he made his way to the ring. So Rhodes got into the ring, and the fans were chanting his name. They were chanting welcome back to him. So Cody got on the mic. He kept asking the Dallas crowd what they want to talk about. So they end up popping for Cody. Cody ended up saying that it's been 47 days since the news came out that he was a free agent. But we all know why Cody left AEW. Apparently, he wanted more money, and Tony Khan didn't agree with Cody's wishes. So Cody ended up leaving, and also his wife Brandy ended up leaving also. And then he signed with WWE. He made his re-debut in the company after being away from WWE for 6 years. He shows up at WrestleMania. He ends up being the opponent for Seth Rollins on night one on Saturday. And the match was awesome. The match was very enjoyable. It was a good match. It was the best match of night one of WrestleMania. Cody put on a 5-star match there against Seth Rollins. And both guys just delivered. It was an awesome match. So Cody ended up saying that he heard all the theories. He kept saying everyone thinks the decision to return to WWE was difficult for him. But it was not. And that was simple, really. He kept saying that the star that left them in the dust, which of course he was referring to Stardust when he was Stardust, and the man that has signed a multi-year agreement stand here now. And the fans were chanting, "You deserve it." He kept saying that if there was a glimmer of doubt, then the moment he rose up in front of 70,000 plus fans, that doubt was eradicated. Cody ended up recalling a quote that he found about how a man finds his destiny on the path he takes to avoid it. So Cody then ended up showing us a photo of his father, WWE Hall of Famer Dusty Rhodes, on the screen. Dusty Rhodes, may he rest in peace. So Cody ended up saying that it's so easy to say that's his father. And yeah, he's a legend, a common man, the son of a plumber. But Cody ended up saying he was also his hero. So Cody ended up saying that the photo that is on the screen was taken at Madison Square Garden in 1977, while Dusty was holding the title that Hall of Famers like Hulk Hogan, The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, and Triple H would get their hands on, and other great superstars. Cody ended up saying that this photo was on the mantle in his parents' bedroom until his father's last day. Cody ended up getting a bit emotional. He kept saying as he got hip to the industry, he found the courage to say to his dad that he didn't know he was champion, like Hulk Hogan was. Cody ended up saying that his dad looked at him with the same eyes that his daughter does, and explained how it was champion's advantage, and he won by countout, but didn't take the title home. Cody ended up saying that he was just 8 years old, and he knew then that he would win the title one day, and he would place it and bestow it into the hands of the American Dream, telling him no one can take it from you now. Rose ended up saying that for those who are new to his journey, unfortunately, that dream died. It died right in front of him, and that the opportunity passed. Cody was getting more emotional. He ended up saying that opportunity passed, or did it? Cody ended up saying that he cannot physically put that title into his father's hands. He can't physically bestow it onto the American Dream, but he can certainly put it around the waist of the American Nightmare. So fans were chanting, "You can do it too, Cody." Cody ended up saying that his intentions are clear, and that he's made it clear. Now he stands in front of us ready, finally ready, and he's going to do it. He's going to give the distinction that his family has long since been denied. He's going to be doing it for the fans, and for himself, for his family, and he's also going to do it for his father, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. So then out came Seth Rollins. Rollins then ended up dancing down the stage. Rollins came to the ring. Rollins was wearing a pink suit tonight. He was looking like the Pink Panther in that suit, with it all being pink. Pink suit, pink tie. So Rollins came into the ring. He stared Cody down. Cody stared back at Rollins. He ended up dropping the mic. He then extended his hand for a shake. Rollins just looked at Cody as they stood in the middle of the ring. Rollins then ended up finally shaking Cody's hand while smiling, and he was mouthing something to him. And Corey Graves on commentary ended up saying that Rollins said, "Welcome home," to Cody. And pretty much that was basically how the segment ended. But very enjoyable segment, with Cody, being back in WWE. If Cody wants to go for the WWE, the undisputed WWE Universal Championship, he'll probably be the one to face Roman sometime down the line. I can see that possibly happening at SummerSlam. I think that will be the summer feud for Roman Reigns. Going to be Reigns versus Cody. And I think Cody's going to be the one, if they do it, if WWE does it, Cody's going to be the one to take the undisputed WWE Universal Championship off of Roman at SummerSlam. So I think that would be your summer match with Roman, in my opinion. But overall, very enjoyable segment. And here's where the show goes to shit. So we had the first match of the night. A championship contenders match. Sasha Banks and Naomi versus Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley. If Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley end up winning the match, they earn a future shot at the Women's Tag Team titles. WWE needs to stop with these championship contenders matches. They mean fucking nothing. It's just lazy booking by creative. Stop with these championship contenders matches. Seriously. So we had Naomi and Sasha Banks. They end up coming out first. And then as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan were already in the ring. The match started off with Rhea Ripley and Naomi. Rhea Ripley ended up taking control of the match. She ended up delivering a long vertical suplex to Naomi. Rhea Ripley ended up keeping Naomi in the air, slammed her, and then went for a cover, which Naomi ended up kicking out too. Naomi ended up ducking a boot from Rhea Ripley. and she ended up working on Rhea Ripley. Sasha Banks tagged in, and Banks and Naomi ended up double teaming on Rhea Ripley. They double teamed her into the turnbuckles. Naomi ended up taking back in, and her and Sasha did some more double teaming on Rhea Ripley. So Naomi ended up going for the cover. Liv Morgan ended up breaking up the pin. Liv was sent to the outside by Naomi, and Sasha Banks ended up hitting the Meteor from the apron onto Liv Morgan on the floor. Rhea Ripley leapt out from the apron to take Sasha down on the floor. Naomi ended up running and nailed a dive onto Rhea Ripley at ringside. Naomi ended up bringing Rhea Ripley back to the ring, and Naomi ended up hitting a leg drop on Ripley. She ended up going for the cover as Ripley ended up kicking out at 2. As Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Naomi ended up nailing a springboard kick to drop Rhea Ripley. Liv Morgan and Sasha tagged in at the same time. Both Liv and Banks end up unloading on each other. So Banks ended up dropping Liv Morgan in the corner. She ended up taking a shot to Liv's jaw. And then Sasha hit the Meteora. And Banks ended up going up to the top. She delivered another Meteora to Liv Morgan. So she ended up going for the cover. Liv Morgan kicked out at 2. So we had Liv doing some roll-ups, but Sasha kept control of the match. Liv Morgan ended up dropping Sasha with an enziguri. Rhea Ripley came in. She ended up taking in, and Liv and Ripley ended up double teaming on Sasha. Ripley ended up covering for a 2 count, and it was back and forth between the two teams. And we had Banks and Naomi end up hitting a double modified lung blower on Liv Morgan. So Sasha Banks and Naomi ended up winning the match. Post-match, Banks and Naomi ended up standing tall in the ring. Rhea Ripley ended up coming back in to check on Liv Morgan. And Rhea Ripley was disappointed with Liv. Liv tried to talk to Rhea Ripley, but she ended up walking off. So Liv Morgan was confused at that. So another partner that Rhea Ripley doesn't have much luck in. Nikki ASH ended up beating the hell out of Rhea Ripley. So Rhea Ripley went from Nikki ASH to Liv Morgan. And now Rhea Ripley is going to be getting away from Liv Morgan. I sense them turning Rhea Ripley heel. So now her and Liv Morgan could disband. So that's what I see WWE doing with Rhea Ripley. I think they'll be turning her heel. So then Kevin Owens ended up coming out. Kevin Owens was in the ring. Owens got on the mic. He ended up saying that he may have made a mistake at WrestleMania on night 1 when he had Stone Cold Steve Austin on the Kevin Owens show. Owens admitted that he underestimated the Texas Rattlesnake a little bit because he is still great. Stone Cold Steve Austin is still great. But you have to be great to step in the ring with the greatest of all time, himself, Kevin Owens. Owens ended up yelling at the crowd about how great he is. He ended up saying that he went into the match with a bad back injury. And Owens ended up going on about how he probably should have taken time off to heal up. Owens ended up saying that as great as the win was for Austin, it should be listed in the record books as being over someone who wasn't 100%. And Owens ended up ranting about his back and also Austin. And then out came Elias. Only he's not being called Elias. He is now being called Ezekiel. And he shaved off the beard. He shaved off the mustache. He cut, his long hair. His hair was like that. Like a little bit long, but not as long as when we last saw him. He's been out for 9 months. So he's now being called Ezekiel. And I swear, If LA Knight had a twin brother, that is what Elias looks like. When he came out, I was like, oh, is this LA Knight? I swear, he looked like LA Knight when he came out. LA Knight from NXT. So he came into the ring. Kevin Owens ended up asking, Elias, is that you? Where the hell have you been? So Kevin Owens ended up asking why Elias, or Ezekiel, is interrupting him. So Elias ended up saying that he's not Elias. He is the younger brother to Elias. And that his name is Ezekiel. Kevin Owens ended up saying no. He recognized the eyes. And this is Elias. And he kept saying that he insists he's the younger brother to Elias, named Ezekiel. So Kevin Owens ended up saying that he hates liars. Ezekiel ended up saying that he must hate himself then, because he lied to Stone Cold on Saturday. And because of that, he got stunned. So the fans were chanting, you got stunned. Kevin Owens ended up saying that he doesn't like Elias. And Kevin Owens ended up giving Ezekiel 10 seconds to get out of the ring, or else. So Owens started counting down, and as soon as he got to 1, he left the ring. He didn't even do anything, and pretty much that was basically that. Elias, or Ezekiel, ended up looking on with a smirk on his face. Pretty much that was basically that. But this was awful. Elias, as Ezekiel now, because he's claiming, oh, I'm the younger brother to Elias. My name is Ezekiel. How stupid. You could tell that as the next releases come, his name will probably be on the list. They made him look like a jobber here with this new look. Without a doubt, his name will be on the next set of releases, whenever that happens. And then we had Dominic Mysterio versus The Miz. This match lasted 2 minutes. So the Mysterios end up coming out first, both Dominic and Rey. And then as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, The Miz ended up coming out. The Miz was still wearing the yellow and black attire that he wore last night at WrestleMania. And of course, Miz ended up taking out Logan Paul last night. And you can already tell we're going to get more Logan Paul. Yay. You know, like, I'm so excited about that. Yeah, we're going to be getting possibly The Miz versus Logan Paul at WrestleMania Backlash. Can guarantee you that. So the match got underway. Both Dominic and Miz end up going at it. Miz ended up coming right back, delivering the skull-crushing finale on Dominic. There you go. Miz ended up winning. Match lasted 2 minutes. Post-match, Rey ended up coming in to check on Dominic. Miz ended up posing in the corner. And then we finally had the re-debut of Veer Mahaan. So Veer Mahaan finally has come. So Miz ended up leaving as Veer ended up coming into the ring. Veer ended up leveling Dominic. He ended up taking down Dominic. Rey ended up attacking Veer. Veer dropped Rey with a clothesline. Veer ended up smashing Dominic and applied a modified camel clutch on Dominic. Dominic tapped out. There was no referee in sight. Veer wasn't letting go of the camel clutch. And the fans ended up booing Veer. And that was that. But when Veer came out, and I said this, once Veer makes his re-debut on Monday Night Raw, he's going to get 0 reactions from the crowd. And I called it. When Veer came out, he had 0 reaction from the crowd. 0. None of the fans cheered for Veer. Dead silent when he came out. there you go. Veer Mahan has finally came to Monday Night Raw. And then we had Bianca Belair. Bianca Belair ended up coming out. She was in the ring. She got on the mic. She's a new Raw Women's Champion. Defeated Becky Lynch night 1 of WrestleMania on Saturday. So Bianca ended up thanking everyone for never giving up on her until she got back what was hers. So the fans were chanting, "You deserve it," to Bianca. Bianca was sporting a black eye. Like her eye was just a little shut. It was bruised by from what Becky Lynch did to her. She acknowledged the black eye, but she ended up saying that it all goes back to SummerSlam. Bianca ended up saying, "Learn not to take any of this for granted, because it can be taken away so quick, and that it hurt." Bianca went on about being a fighting champion, and that she is ready to face anyone in the back. She ended up saying that after Saturday, she is different, and she is also better. Bianca went on to say that the fans deserve better than Becky Lynch, so she became better. So Bianca hyped herself up, posed in the corner as pyro started going off, and pretty much that was basically that. That was what Bianca had to say. But the match at WrestleMania on Saturday at night 1 between Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch was an awesome match. It was very enjoyable. And Bianca ended up taking back the Raw Women's Championship after she lost it in 19 seconds to Becky Lynch last year at SummerSlam. So Bianca finally got back what was once hers. But who will face Bianca for the Raw Women's Championship? And then we went to Bron Breakker versus Dolph Ziggler. The NXT Championship was on the line. Why the NXT Championship was defended tonight on Raw and not on NXT is beyond me. And I think it's because nobody watches NXT 2.0 on Tuesday nights. And the only reason why they put this match on Monday Night Raw is to get people to watch NXT. And I think that's the reason, because NXT's ratings are very low because nobody's watching NXT on Tuesday nights. And the people who enjoyed NXT when Triple H was behind it, the black and gold, as soon as they found out that Triple H was no longer behind NXT, they quit watching. And that is why NXT's ratings are very low, because NXT under Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard, it's Monday Night Raw 2.0 on Tuesday nights. That's to describe NXT 2.0. So we had this match on Raw tonight for the NXT Championship, which, can you all believe that Dolph Ziggler was the NXT champion? So we had Dolph end up coming out with Robert Roode, and then came out Bron Breakker. Bron stood tall in the ring, and this match was, okay in my opinion. Bron Breakker ended up ramming Dolph into the corner, launched him with a belly-to-belly suplex. Dolph went out to the floor to regroup, and Bron Breakker started taunting Dolph, ended up bringing it back into the ring. Ziggler ended up mounting Bron with some right hands, and then he delivered a DDT and a elbow drop to Bron, and went for the cover. Breakker ended up kicking out at 2. Roode ended up taunting Breakker with some insults, and Breakker ended up catching Dolph in mid-move. He delivered a power slam to Dolph. Breakker ended up blocking the drop kick from Dolph, and he ended up launching him into the turnbuckle with a catapult. Dolph countered, turned it around in the corner, sending Breakker face first. So Dolph ended up drop kicking Breakker to the floor. As Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Dolph was in control of the match. Breakker ended up fighting up and out, but Dolph ended up drop kicking him, and Dolph ended up going for the cover. Breakker kicked out at 2. Dolph was going for the Famouser, to which Breakker ended up countering that with a powerbomb, and both Breakker and Dolph were down. So it was back and forth between them. At the end of the match, Breakker ended up pressing Dolph high above his head, and he ended up dropping Dolph down to the power slam. Breakker ended up going for the cover, and there you go. Breakker ended up winning the match. Bron Breakker won the match and is the new NXT champion. So Bron Breakker was the NXT champion, and he lost it to Dolph at NXT Roadblock. So what was the point of having Dolph Ziggler as the NXT champion only for Bron Breakker to win it back tonight? 50-50 booking. Typical WWE with the 50-50 booking. Overall, it was an okay match. And then we had MVP. MVP was in the ring. MVP ended up saying that actions speak louder than words. He ended up saying that it's his pleasure to introduce a man who spoke volumes with his actions at WrestleMania. So MVP ended up saying that Bobby Lashley, without an ounce of help, triumphed over the Goliath, Omos, that has been terrorizing Monday Night Raw as of late. And he didn't even need MVP's help. So out came the almighty Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley ended up hitting the ring. Fans were chanting Bobby. Lashley got on the mic. He ended up saying that he couldn't resist the WrestleMania challenge for Omos. He had to see how big and tough he was. And that match was on night 2 of WrestleMania, and that match fucking sucked. Lashley ended up saying that he knew when he knocked Omos on his ass last week, he knew it could be done. Well, if you saw Monday Night Raw last week, when Bobby Lashley knocked Omos down, that was pretty much 95% of the match that we saw last night. So Lashley ended up admitting that Omos beat the hell out of him at WrestleMania as the strongest, most powerful, and meanest man he's ever faced. Lashley ended up saying that he knew the only way he could win was for Omos to make a mistake. And then it would be 1, 2, 3. And that's exactly what happened. So then out came Omos. Omos ended up saying that he wants his rematch with Bobby Lashley because the win was a fluke. MVP took the mic and he announcing that Omos wants his rematch. Omos and Lashley faced off in the middle of the ring. MVP dropped Bobby Lashley from behind by taking Lashley's knee out. Omos decked Bobby Lashley, and MVP ended up mounting Lashley with some punches. MVP was yelling about how Lashley doesn't need him anymore. Omos held Lashley and MVP decked him. MVP was barking orders at Omos while Omos was destroying Lashley more. MVP delivered his Yakuza kick in the corner to Bobby Lashley as Omos ended up driving Lashley into the mat and then posed over Lashley. MVP pointed his cane at Omos and then ended up shaking his hand, and that was that. But really, we're getting another match with Omos and Lashley. Why? Omos is absolutely fucking terrible, and bad move for MVP now being the mouthpiece for Omos. Absolutely awful. You know what this reminds me? This reminds me of the Great Khali 2.0 and Ranjin Singh. Remember Ranjin Singh was the mouthpiece for Great Khali back in the day? That is what I see now with Omos and MVP now. Omos is Great Khali 2.0 and MVP is Ranjin Singh. That is what I'm seeing now with the both of them. But bad move for MVP to turn on Bobby Lashley and be a mouthpiece to Omos. Awful. So then we had Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan was looking for Rhea Ripley backstage. Liv Morgan ended up finding Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley ended up revealing to Liv Morgan that Adam Pearce has granted her request for a shot at the Women's Tag Team titles for next week. Liv ended up thanking Rhea Ripley, and she kept saying, "Let's go get the gold." So, let me get this straight. Rhea Ripley revealed that Adam Pearce granted her request for them to get a shot at the Women's Tag Team titles. What has Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan done to earn an opportunity for the Women's Tag Team titles? We all know they will be losing the match next week. And Rhea Ripley is going to be turning on Liv Morgan. And then we had Carmella and Queen Zelina Vega. They end up coming out. And originally this was going to be them versus Shayna Baszler and Natalya. But that didn't take place. So Zelina Vega ended up interrupting. Zelina Vega got on the mic. She kept saying that before that she has one thing she has to get off her chest. Zelina Vega ended up saying that Carmella is the reason why they lost the tag team titles. And that Carmella is too preoccupied with herself. Vega ended up mentioning how Carmella is too obsessed with her man, Corey Graves, her soon-to-be husband. Carmella then ended up snatching the mic from Zelina Vega. They ended up having some words. Carmella ended up thinking that Zelina Vega would be one of her bridesmaids. But now all she can be is a flower girl. So Zelina Vega ended up decking Carmella with a forearm. She ended up sending Carmella out to the floor. Carmella was down at the commentary table. She ended up grabbing her soon-to-be husband, Corey Graves. And Carmella ended up grabbing Corey. They ended up starting kissing. They were making out. And that was basically that. Very, very boring. Moving on. The Usos, Jimmy and Jay, they approached Austin Theory backstage. Austin Theory was seething because of him losing the match last night to Pat McAfee, to which Pat McAfee got the best ovation last night at WrestleMania. The crowd was very hot on Pat McAfee. So the Usos end up pointing out how mad Austin Theory looks. He kept saying that they're not unhappy like he is because they got the win at WrestleMania. So they ended up saying that tonight they will show RKBro why the Bloodline controls all of WWE. So the Usos end up saying that they almost believe the hype on Austin Theory from Vince McMahon. But then he got beat by a retired NFL player and Stone Cold Steve Austin. So the Usos end up taunting Austin Theory. Theory has heard enough. Theory ended up saying that Pat McAfee got lucky and that he's not even going to talk about Austin. Theory ended up saying that Mr. McMahon, Vince, never makes a mistake, and he is the best investment Vince has ever made. You know, Vince claimed to say, oh, Austin Theory could be the next John Cena. He could be a future Universal Champion. So Theory ended up saying that as far as tonight, he ended up saying that Balor might as well be Theory because he's going to catch a beating. So Theory ended up saying, A-Town down. And that was that. He ended up walking off, and the Usos ended up smiling. So then we had the six-man tag. RKBro and Finn Balor versus the Usos and Austin Theory. This was a decent six-man tag. RK-Bro ended up coming out to the ring. And then Balor came out to a pop from the crowd. Then the Usos came out. Then Austin Theory. The match ended up starting. Balor ended up going at it with Jimmy. They ended up going back and forth. Balor nailed a drop kick to Jimmy. And he went for the cover, which Jimmy kicked out at 1. Riddle tagged in. He took over. He ended up taking Jimmy down to the mat. Jimmy ended up ramming Riddle into the corner to tag in Jay. So the Usos ended up double teaming on Riddle. Theory tagged in. Ended up decking Riddle as Orton reached for a tag. So the fans were chanting. They were taunting at Austin Theory. They were singing the theme for Pat McAfee that Pat McAfee used at WrestleMania, which was the Seven Nation Army, to just taunt Theory and piss him off. Theory ended up working on Riddle, and Riddle ended up sending Theory out to the floor. Riddle then nailed a punk kick to Theory's chest from the apron. Riddle then followed it up. He was looking to go for a springboard move, but Theory ended up putting Riddle down. As Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Jey Uso had Riddle down. Riddle ended up reaching for a tag. He started fighting Jey off. Jey leveled him with a right hand as Jey ended up going for the cover, to which Riddle kicked out 2. So Jey nailed Balor with a right hand on the apron. Riddle ended up taking advantage. He ended up dropping Jey with a step-up kick. Orton ended up tagging in. Got a pop. He started unloading as Jimmy also tagged in. Orton knocked Theory off the apron, started unloading on Jimmy. Jey came from behind. Orton ended up elbowing Jey. So Orton didn't see Theory tag in. So Orton ended up focusing on Jimmy. He was preparing for the RKO. And Theory ended up hitting Orton with a drop kick, with a rolling drop kick. So Balor ended up kicking from the apron. He ended up coming off the top. Missed the coup de grace as Theory ended up moving. Balor blocked the ATL, ended up dropping Theory with a elbow drop. Jey super kicked Balor out of nowhere, but Orton ended up hitting the RKO. Riddle flew off of the top, and Jey ended up super kicking Riddle in midair. Balor then ended up taking out Jey, but Theory ended up dropping Balor with the ATL. And there you go. Austin Theory and the Usos ended up winning the match. Overall, this was a decent 6-man tag. And then we had Edge coming out. I'm loving what they're doing with Edge. You know, this whole heel Edge here. Edge was in the ring. He had a mic in hand. Edge ended up saying that he is an honest man. He ended up saying that Styles would meet his end at WrestleMania. And he did. But Edge ended up saying that he didn't count on Damien Priest showing up. Edge ended up saying that for too long, Damien Priest fought his inner self, just like he did. And that he tried to be a good role model for all you sheep, just like him. So the fans were chanting, "We are sheep." And Edge ended up saying, that's very telling. So Edge was calling them idiots. So Edge ended up saying, without further ado, he demands everyone rise for the man who will be Edge's punishment for the guilty. That man is Damien Priest. So Priest ended up coming out. He was wearing a black suit, and he was wearing eyeliner. You know, his hair was braided, just like what we saw last night at WrestleMania. So Damien Priest came into the ring. Both him and Edge shake hands. So Edge ended up asking what it was about his words that caused Priest to take back his career. Priest ended up saying to Edge that it goes without saying how much Edge has meant to him for a very long time. He ended up saying weeks leading into WrestleMania, he was lost. So the fans were chanting, "We don't care," to Damien Priest. So Priest ended up saying there was a time that would have bothered him. So Edge ended up saying, "Not anymore, losers." Priest ended up saying that he once tried to please everyone, but himself. So Priest ended up agreeing. He ended up going on about how it felt like Edge's message was speaking directly to him, which is why it was so easy to make the decision to pledge his loyalty to Edge. Edge wanted to say that this was the best decision of Priest's life. And I gotta admit that. I think Priest needed this. Now, as long as Priest gets in the ring with, with him being a heel here, hopefully WWE takes away what they did with Damien Priest, with him turn into the Hulk and bringing the Damien out of him. Hopefully that's done with Damien Priest now that he's aligned with Edge. And if they're still making him do that, if he has a match, that'll be lame. That would be lame of him doing that and being a heel, standing next to Edge. So Edge ended up going on. He kept saying they judged AJ Styles at WrestleMania. And now they will pass judgment on anyone who challenges Edge's message. Their message. Edge ended up saying that he knows Styles is going to keep coming. Edge ended up saying that he wanted the Pitbull version of Styles, and that he got it. He ended up saying that Styles' best option is to fight, but he has to think of his family and his children, and that they need a father. So then out came Styles. Priest ended up meeting Styles on the ramp. Styles ended up ducking a swing, started unloading on Priest, fought him to the ringside area. Styles ended up tossing Priest over the barricade. He then hit the ring. He went to work on Edge. Styles ended up launching Edge into the ring post a few times. Styles then ended up going to the timekeeper's area, and he brought in 2 chairs. He took 2 chairs, brought them into the ring. Styles wanted payback for the concerto from Edge a few weeks ago. So Priest rushed back into the ring. He started beating Styles down. Priest stomped away in the corner at Styles. So Edge recovered, and him and Priest end up double teaming on Styles. They end up laying him out with a double spear, which I thought looked cool. So both Edge and Priest end up grabbing the chairs. They were trying to do another concerto, but officials end up coming into the ring. And the fans were chanting thank you to Jamie Noble. And pretty much that was basically that. But like I said, Priest needed this. And it's going to be a new faction for Edge here. They only need one more guy. And if they were to get another guy for this faction, it would have to be Tommaso Ciampa. I think Tommaso Ciampa would be good in this role with Priest and Edge. That would be awesome if they got Tommaso Ciampa to be the next member, to be in Edge's faction. And it's just reminding me of another version of the Brood or the Ministry with Edge here. We'll see where this goes. Overall, this was okay segment. I'm liking this Edge. And then we had the Street Profits versus the Alpha Academy. And we've seen this before. The Profits ended up coming out first. And then as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, out came the Alpha Academy, Otis and Chad Gable. Chad Gable doing his lame, a shush. And then as they got into the ring, the stupid lame, a thank you. That just makes Chad Gable look lame. Even though he's good in the ring, the shush and the a thank you is fucking lame on Chad Gable there whenever he does it. So Otis and Gable came into the ring. They quickly attacked the Street Profits from behind. Gable delivered a German suplex to Montez Ford. Otis ended up destroying Angelo Dawkins at ringside. So Adam Pearce ended up coming out. Pearce ended up saying that if all four wanted to fight at once, all they had to do was ask. So Pearce ended up making the match a Texas Tornado tag team match. No rules and anything goes. So the match got underway, and we had the Alpha Academy and the Profits end up all going at it. Dawkins and Otis went at it on the floor. Gable charged into the corner. Montez Ford launched him to the floor. Ford ended up running the ring. He ended up flying over the ring post, taking down the Alpha Academy and his own partner, Angelo Dawkins. And the Profits ended up bringing Gable back into the ring. They delivered a double suplex to Chad Gable. So Ford ended up going for the cover, which Gable kicked out at 1. So Otis came back in. He was just being down on the Profits. Dawkins unloaded in the corner while Gable and Ford ended up going at it. Gable delivered a fisherman suplex to Montez Ford as he went for the cover, to which Ford ended up kicking out at 2. So later on, we had the Alpha Academy. They ended up in a double team, and Gable ended up nailing the moonsault to Angelo Dawkins. Otis ended up hitting the Vader Bomb to Montez Ford. And so both guys went for the cover, and the Street Profits both kicked out at 2. Otis ended up going out of the ring. He went out of the ring and he retrieved the table. Gable ended up helping him stand the table up with Otis in the ring. Gable ended up laying Dawkins on the table as Otis ended up going to the second rope. Gable ended up knocking Montez Ford out to the floor. Dawkins ended up jumping up from the table, ended up sending Otis out to the floor. Dawkins dropped Otis at ringside, sent him into the ring steps. So Ford ended up going up to the top. Gable cut him off. He then moved the table. Gable climbed up to Montez Ford for a superplex through the table, but Ford resisted. So Ford ended up back fisting Gable down to the mat. The Profits end up knocking Gable onto the table. Ford rushed to the top. Ford leapt off the top with a frog splash, and he ended up putting Chad Gable through the table and went for the cover. And there you go. The Street Profits ended up winning the match. Overall, we've seen this before with the Profits and the Alpha Academy. Nothing new other than it being a Texas Tornado tag team match. And then, as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, it was announced that next week on Monday Night Raw, we're going to be seeing Damien Priest versus AJ Styles, which should be a good match there. Priest and Styles going at it. We're going to get Veer Mahan versus Rey Mysterio. And then, of course, Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan faces Sasha Banks and Naomi for the women's tag team titles next week, which, like I said, Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan are going to lose. Rhea Ripley probably going to turn heel next week on Liv Morgan. And then we had the Bloodline. The Bloodline ended up coming out, Roman Reigns, the Usos, and Paul Heyman. So Paul Heyman was carrying both the WWE Championship and the Universal Championship on each shoulder. Reigns ended up taking both belts. He raised both belts in the air. Pyro ended up going off. And you could tell by when Reigns ended up putting his shoulder down, you could tell that he was in pain from Brock Lesnar locking in the Kimura lock last night. You could tell that Reigns was, a little bit hurt. So the Bloodline marched to the ring, and they got into the ring. Reigns ended up handing both belts to Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman handed Reigns a mic. He kept saying that he knows what we want. Reigns was saying that he knows what we want and why the fans are here. But they're going to switch things up. Reigns called on Paul Heyman to explain the Bloodline's success. He kept saying that he put over the Usos' title reigns and Reigns' various successes and milestones as champion. Paul Heyman ended up going on. He kept saying that Reigns is the single-handed biggest star in sports entertainment. He is undisputed. So Reigns then ended up taking the mic, and he kept saying, what's good for Reigns is good for WWE. So Reigns bragged about the deals coming in with him as the head of the table. So Reigns ended up saying that he is the last real needle mover because he is operating at God mode. He kept saying that he's so much more than that. He's a man of his word, and that he delivered. Reigns wanted to say that he would smash Brock Lesnar. And what did he do? He smashed him. And yes, and then the match sucked. That was your main event of night 2 last night. The match fucking sucked. It was copy and paste of the matches that they had over the past 7 years. It was fucking awful. So Reigns ended up saying that other men would hang their hat on this weekend, but not him, because he's never content. He wanted to say he's a progressive tribal chief, and that he's constantly on the move. Reigns ended up revealing that they will let the fans know what the next move is this Friday on SmackDown. So Reigns ended up calling on Dallas to acknowledge him. And pretty much that was basically how Monday Night Raw went off the air. So who's going to be Reigns' challenger? If no one WWE, it's going to be Drew McIntyre. They'll be doing Drew McIntyre going after Roman for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. Watch they do that. Watch McIntyre be next to face Roman Reigns. But overall, this Raw after WrestleMania was a bore. This didn't even feel like a Raw after WrestleMania. It just felt like a typical Monday Night Raw you see every Monday night. No hype, no big crowd noises, none of the crowd chanting the superstars' names. Nothing. This didn't even feel like a Raw after WrestleMania. Very, very disappointing. But overall, that's it for my review of tonight's Monday Night Raw. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. There will be no AEW Dynamite review this Wednesday. So don't be on the lookout for a Dynamite review this Wednesday. I'll be working late. So no review of that this Wednesday. But anyways, thank you all for watching. And I'll see you all later.